Yo, what's good, everybody? No name here. Let's get right into it, right? Now, I'm gonna warn you, this video is just me kind of complaining. Not really complaining. It's a lot of feedback that I need to get off my chest because I'm trying to make good content for y'all, right? I've posted 2 videos about my Hex Blaster and I've gotten a lot. Y'all have blown those up. Y'all have given us so much love. Thank you so much for that. It makes me happy that y'all actually like rock with that character and the videos that I've done for it. And I wanted to give y'all one more video to talk about like a more finalized version, like not the min-maxed perfected version that I had in my POB, but more just like a character that's actually in the 35 plus million DPS range with the more completed suite of what I actually want for the character altogether. And as a result of doing so, I needed to find content to test it in. Uber bossing is a great content for that. And well, my experience trying to get the Uber bosses, trying to get them, is what spawned this video here. Let's get ready to talk about that. Before I do, if you like videos like these, please like this video. It just lets me know that I should continue to do more like this, right? That's all I'm really looking for here with that. And if you like what I do here on the channel, subscribe so you can see more of what we do. Back to what I was talking about though. So, trying to get these Uber bosses has driven me up a wall, genuinely. It takes so long to get into an Uber boss that you want to fight. That's a terrible feeling overall. Plus, there's some drop rate stuff that I haven't fully decided how I feel about either. And then I have some other concerns to add on top of that, but they are like second and third degree concerns, not in that they're lesser concerns, but that they are built off of these other concerns that I have, right? So, let's start at the main concern, the thing that really even prompted me to like make this video a thing, which is the fact that getting to Uber bosses right now sucks dick. I'll give you one of 2 reasons as to why they suck dick, and you can decide if it's one or both for you. But here we go. I think 5 Uber fragments feels terrible, and that could be because of the fact that you only get 1 or 2 for most kills of a T17 boss, and it might not even be any of the ones you're actually looking for. Or, it could just be that T17s really should drop more. Maybe it should be that Uber fragments should just not need 5 in order to open. Hey, look, it's not really my job to pick the numbers on that, right? GDG, do your thing there. I'm just providing the feedback. The other piece of feedback that I would provide, and I think this is the one that I'm leaning towards more as my problem with this system, is double locked acquisition is what I've been calling it to my friends. And it's just me saying basically it feels absurd that I have to change my grind repeatedly in order to target specific T17s, in order to then use the fact that I targeted specific T17s to try to target specific Uber bosses. Try to. You actually get more effective results targeting the T17 than you do targeting the Uber boss, by the way. You know how many Uber bosses I've killed and just not seen the fragment that I'm looking for? Like as of recording this video, I still do not have a single Uber Exarch attempt, let alone kill attempt. For comparison, I have 3 Uber Cortex kills, a Cirrus fail and Cirrus kill, 3 Uber Eater kills, and all of the other Ubers I haven't named yet have all been killed at least once. I have not gotten a single attempt at Exarch yet as a result, like through all that, right? And it's because, again, some mixture of the fact that the T17s drop a specific set of fragments, at least per my information I'm able to find. I have been hearing that you can drop fragments outside of the 3 like high weight ones for said map, but I have not been able to find much evidence corroborating the statement, so I'm not actually super certain on that end. The other side of it though is that I then have to shift my maps in order to drop the T17 I need. Like I'm doing Dunes and I'm doing Legion, or I really like running Toxic Sewers on Hexblast. It just fits the build perfectly. But Toxic Sewers does not drop Sanctuary map. Sanctuary map is just one of the 2 maps that I need to be dropping in order to get Blazing Fragments. So therefore, I must change my map. I have to change my map to then go farm a specific T17 which I mean, at least Sanctuary and Abomination are like moderately tolerable ones to have to farm. You know how much I'd hate it if I had to farm Ziggurat for what I want here? Like, being forced to change what I farm on that many levels is ass. Imagine you wanted to farm Cirrus. And so in order to farm Cirrus, you have to get your Conqueror maps to drop. But then imagine in order to get your Conquerors to drop, you have to go into a specific set of maps for each Conqueror, right? You can only drop Alhesman in X layouts. You can only drop Veritania in X layouts. That's what this feels like. And I don't like it at all. It is by far my least favorite part of this process so far. And these are just person trying to grind it out themselves complaints. From what I've been seeing and hearing people who are in trade, another layer to really add to all of this for those of you who are in trade is people aren't even actually killing the bosses always in your stuff. You guys are competing with mappers as well, right? If you're a bossing interested player, your T17s, you're competing to buy T17s with the people who are just loading them up with back to basics and scarab farming in them, or meat sack abusing in them, right? Like you're competing with Magic Find basically for your right to do bosses. That's fucked. Right? Like that's fucked. And that kind of brings me to the next thought is where's the value in this for us as bossers? You know, if you're in trade, there's a guy who posted on subreddit about doing a ton of Uber Mavens and going like 60% in the negative. Uber Maven, the boss with a flask worth about a mage blood. Yeah, that she's in the negative because her drop rates are so bad and her price is so high. What? And it's not even like, oh, like she's like, you know, he just got unlucky. Like, no, it's not surprising he went in the negative on Uber Maven. And it's not like, oh, he just didn't gamble hard enough. There's not like at the numbers that were spent on that post, there's not enough money that would make them go positive. Besides Progenesis magically getting a ridiculous buff to its drop rate and the demands just skyrocketing as a result or something. Like the value in these bosses are not really there, especially for trade players. At least for me, like in the private league, I still have to kill these bosses if I want the items, right? Like, you know, I got an Ashes for my Uber Eater. I have Ravenous Passion now as well. Or, you know, the like getting an Indigon is would be pretty sweet. Things like that are always very exciting drops for us as bossers. But, you know, just because it's a cool power drop in terms of things I can do with my build does not always mean it's very favorable in trade, such as Massive Thread of Hope used to be a really big deal to get to drop finally, and it's the most common drop from Uber Series now, right? Like you end up with situations like that, and that really fucks with everything. And maybe it's just because the market hasn't figured out how to reprice everything yet, and the economy's all sorts of fucked. But bossing is not good in trade. And in SSF or private leagues, my genuine concern is I don't think I get enough Uber bosses to even almost think that I could chase down some of the really rare uniques, right? Like, let's say I really want to do something with a Nimbus. And like, you could always say, oh, well, you want to do things with these like giga rare chase items. Just go play trade. Sure, maybe. But chase items implies that they should be chaseable, you know? Like, it feels ridiculous that it almost feels more reasonable for me to go chase a Mage Blood than it does for me to go chase a Nimbus. When one of them is a directly farmable item. You know what I mean? Like, that's the concern. I just feel like between getting there and some of these drop rates, these items are just too tightly squeezed on their availability for what I want to do. Right? You know, Entropic Devastation comes to mind. Or even like just playing around with like Sublime Vision, seeing if I can get a cool one. Like all these rare, cool Uber boss uniques, like they're so tightly squeezed by just raw availability problems at the moment. Not a fan. Now, I've got like a level 3 to this take. Because I think there's just a little bit more that can be added to this. And I think these are things that I'm a little bit more passionate about just like overall, which is that I genuinely feel bad for people who do not already know how to do Uber bosses in their current iteration. And it's just because unless GGG makes some meaningful, and I mean very meaningful accessibility changes to these bosses. Accessibility here meaning like ability to get into the content, not like, oh, making it more like disabled people friendly. That's not what I mean. I mean literally just being able to get into the content. Like your access to the content is straight up just fucked right now. How are we supposed to be convincing people to actually take that leap into this content, right? The whole thing with the release of T17s was, you know, we felt that the jump between pinnacles and uber pinnacles was just too big of a jump. And there was such an economic disincentive to even doing base versions of the fight. So we needed to separate them, yada, yada, that, this, that, and the other, right? But now here we are where the base versions of the fights are just kind of boring for the level of power creep that our characters have, but they're still important for people to learn at a base level. Then you get into this medium ground, quote unquote, of T17s, which are just egregiously tuned at the moment, to the point where when people ask me if a build is capable of doing T17s, I just kind of ask myself what I do Ubers on it, at least in terms of the bosses. The mapping is a completely other discussion too, right? Like I'd ask myself basically, would I do Ubers on this character? If I wouldn't do Ubers on it, I probably wouldn't touch T17s on it either. Unless it's doing some stuff with like a headhunter or like inspired learning or all those other type of like temporary buff situations, right? Like your ability, so the middle ground is fucked. It is basically as bad as the high ground in terms of difficulty and accessibility. And then we have the high ground, which is just hard to get to. It's a long process to get to, or it's a lot of currency to get to. Because, you know, for a player like me, 10 div, not actually all that much. Like I would waste 10 div on this. I remember back in the day learning Uber Elder, back in 3.6 Synthesis League, shout out, and just burning exalts after exalts on shaper sets so that I could put in more Uber Elders to try to learn that fucking fight. But I acknowledge in a situation like that that I'm a bit of a more of a unique thinker. Money for most people is more of a finite resource than that. And that's just the problem that trade tends to apply pressure to, or time, really, right? Like, I'm in a fucking group found. Realistically, and I say group found because, you know, in SSF, you still have no choice but to run it yourself, right? But like, I'm in a group found. What would really stop me from just going, you know what? I'm going to brick these fights. I should just give them to somebody else in the group found, because there's no point in me trying to learn these fights right now than breaking it and we not get whatever unique actually drops from inside of it. That should not be a consideration that people have to continually run into when we're talking about content that we explicitly made changes to in order to make it so that more people will interact with it. The stated goal when we decided they talked about how to redo the process of getting into Uber Pinnacles was that Uber Pinnacles felt like a wall that could not be climbed, and they wanted people to engage that content. And yet here we are with a system that is so trade focused in its design that it completely disincentivizes people who have never interacted with Uber buses before to do it anyways. And that's the end of it, right? I don't even have more to add to that. Because what do? It does not feel good as an SSF player. It does not even feel good in a private league. And it sure as hell does not actually feel all that great in trade. So for those of us who are bossers who were really excited to, you know, see out how the changes around T17s and Uber bosses went, for, you know, getting people into Uber bossing content, because I'm always a fan of the idea of people really rising to the challenge, and learning the Uber bosses was extremely satisfying. And I even got like pretty excited at the thought where it was like, oh man, Cortex got more available, but I was like, oh right, there's no keystone for it anymore, but hopefully they'll still be available. And here we are in a world where accessibility is a problem. And here's a 3.1 on this problem. Because of these accessibility issues, there are two fights in particular I think should be adjusted, just as small side notes. Cortex needs to not be so random in its difficulty along the same lines as a T17. The only difference is that when you put in an Uber Cortex, you get a random difficulty level that you just kind of have to cope with. Like both of the Uber Cortexes that I've killed this league so far, or two of the Uber Cortexes I've killed so far, were turbo. One of them was AoE, the other was multi-proj. Like if you don't know that fight already, turbo multi-proj might as well not even be run. Like, you might as well just go next map. Go farm up 5 more fragments, my boy. You're cooked. Like, that's fucked up. And Uber Series, I think, needs to be revisited in terms of his reapproachability. Just in terms of, like, bricking one portal tends to lead to about 2 to 4 more bricked portals, just from difficulty actually re-entering the arena. These are just little things that I feel like would make this feel a lot better on those specific fights. But overall, back to the point of the video, as I wind us down here, Uber bosses are not more accessible as a result of what we've done here. And it's not like oh yeah, duh. Like, they took away the ability to just put in a regular Exarch and click a note on the passive tree. Like, obviously there are less Uber bosses being ran. Sure. But I mean just the whole of everything. We went from maybe Uber's being a little bit too dominant in this space to Uber's just being a pain in the ass. Like, I've been grinding for days, getting the fragments and stuff so that I can get the footage of me killing each Uber once. We haven't even almost gotten to the part where I want to farm some of them for the various drops, right? And that process is long. The pricing and trade is so absurd that it's not even profitable to run most of them. Like, people just do it because they like gambling and they're addicted to gambling. And I can't convince people to learn the fights either. Oh, you're gonna grind all that time in SSF or group found for it? Oh, you're gonna waste that much currency in trade? You're gonna waste a significant portion of a headhunter to try to learn a boss? Fuck that. Go buy a headhunter and just go buy some T17s to get to magic finding. Like, what the fuck are we doing? There are so many factors weighing into these Uber bosses not being worth doing. And that has to change. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know in the comments, really, right? If you like what I talked about here or you want to see more of this, yada, yada, liking the video lets me know that you rocked with this. If you're digging the channel, digging the vibes that we've got going on here, maybe you've seen some other of my content, feel free to consider subscribing so you can see even more of what we do even easier, right? If you want to see more of what I do, like live or anything, sometimes I'm live on Twitch. I'm not sitting here telling you like, oh yeah, I'm live on Twitch, yada, yada. Like, I stream on Twitch occasionally when the bug hits me and I go, you know what, this would be cool for stream. If you want to see me more, Discord is actually a much better place for that. Link to both my Twitch and my Discord will be in the description down below. Anyways, I've got to get back to blasting because I still need one more blazing fragment before I can actually go ahead and work on finishing my Hex Blast update video so I can then start to talk to you guys about the new build ideas I have coming up for the rest of the league because, well, fuck, I just want to be done with this goddamn project, but I needed to get this off my chest first because I know if I feel this way as a person who's willing to play the game 60, 80, 100 hours a week, even after the initial rush of the game, I know that there are other people out there feeling this, and I wanted to make sure that you guys had a voice to be heard through that. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Have a great one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.